is easy, yeah, this is true. Keeping your attention is what I'm gonna do. Hardcore, yo, I can never be soft.
In the early 90s, a diss track war would go on between two record labels. Members of Death Row Records would begin to diss Eazy-E and Ruthless Records over money and contract issues. It all started when Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg dissed Eazy-E and Jerry Heller on a track called Messin' with Dre Day.
Eazy-E getting the big fat dig.
Eazy-E would then respond to this track with a song called Real Compton City G's, which also featured two of his proteges, BG Knockout and Gangsta Draysta. This diss track was so well received that it's been called the greatest diss track of all time by many listeners of hip hop. Once Eazy-E and his crew dropped this gem, the Dog Pound Gangsters would then respond with a diss track aimed at Ruthless Records called What Would You Do? After this, Eazy-E would then respond to the DPGs with a diss track also titled What Would You Do? This diss track was one of the many obscure ones within the saga, probably because it was released after Eazy-E's death. But nevertheless, it was just as brutal as the many diss tracks Eazy-E released previously. For this diss track, Eazy-E focuses his attention mainly on Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound Gangsters, as he figured that he's already destroyed Dre on Real Compton City G's.
Now diggity diggity dance, I biggity biggity blast, don't want smoke that ass, not corrupt, don't even set trip.
Eazy ferociously attacked Snoop Dogg by saying things like he found him freebasing in the crack house and how him and the DPGs are not real Crips but studio gangsters instead. But I also must mention that Dre wasn't 100% safe, as Eazy takes some brutal jabs at him as well.
Since Dre is a bitch, pimp slap that hoe.
Eazy-E then sends another protege of his named Dirty Red to come and drop some ill verses on the Death Row crew as well.
Dirty Red, I comes on the snake, hitting niggas low with the caviar's flow.
All in all, I think this diss track deserves to be mentioned more, as it's very dark and Eazy and Dirty Red come through and dismantle Death Row Records.
Bring on the moles and holes, don't snooze a doze, cause I'm ripping up shows. Hold your nose, dead bodies are around.
Now this diss track stemmed from a collaborative track from LL Cool J called 4321. The track would feature three of his label mates at the time, which were Method Man, Redman, and DMX. There was also a second version of this track that featured Canibus and Master P, and this version will quickly start a feud that would definitely go down in the history books. It all started when Canibus wrote his verse, in which he mentioned borrowing the microphone that was tattooed on LL's arm in order to continue to wreck his verse.
Method, where the guards at? Redman, where the squad at? L's, that a mic on your arm? Let me borrow that.
LL quickly saw this as disrespect and told Canibus to go change his verse. Canibus then agreed, as he didn't want to disrespect his idol. Back with a brand new verse, LL then goes and changes his original verse in order to diss Canibus. This action led to LL dissing Canibus on the same song he was told to change his verse on.
You don't want to bar that, you want to idolize, and you don't want to make me mad, nigga, you want to socialize.
After this grimy incident, Canibus could not believe what his idol did and decided to respond with one of the most classic diss tracks in hip-hop history called Second Round KO.
Well, let me tell you something, you might got more cash than me, but you ain't got the skills to eat a nigga's ass like me.
This diss track was so brutal, it actually inspired LL to get back in the studio to work on his 8th album titled The Greatest of All Time. On this album, he released a track called Back Where I Belong, where he addresses the whole ordeal. At the start of this track, L reflects back when he was conversing in the hood with locals on how the rap game has changed and how no one is really checking for him anymore. Locals tell L that no one wants to hear love songs anymore, and that his first response to the Canibus diss track was just downright booty.
Can I bust? Yes, you can. Can I bust? Yes, you can. Can I bust? Yes, you can. Can I bust?
Nah. This ain't it, bruh.
Yeah, you gonna definitely have to go back to the lab, big dog.
This leads to LL going completely in on Canibus by saying he's nothing but a one-hit wonder and he could never be on LL's level. He even mentions how him and Wyclef Jean set him up in order for LL to collect half of Canibus's budget for the diss track.
Me and Wyclef got together to set you up, and how he gave me half your budget. Don't believe me? Look it up. Your A&R promotion niggas, they helped me hook it up.
Let's just say this, never get on LL's bad side, even if you don't intend to, if that makes any sense. But oh yeah, Ja Rule also does the hook for this track as well.
And it feels so good to be back where I belong.
When I really love to travel with Promatic, my niggas and visit with flows. Me and Stucky share the same dream, trick the same. And Royce, he got beef stuck in his brain.
Do you, dog, and I'ma do me, dog. Maddox the name, I'm hanging rappers from trees, y'all.
I literally found this diss track on a whim as I discovered an old mixtape from a legendary underground DJ named DJ Butter. Back in 1999, he would become D12's first DJ, mixing and scratching for them at the Majestic Theater. He would also release various mixtapes during this time. His first mixtape would be Kill the DJ, which featured guest appearances from Eminem, Royce the 5'9", and D12. This tape right here is definitely worth listening to, as it has countless bangers.
Niggas got the wrong views of this long ooze. I'm nothing to prove. While you bluffing, I use. I'm gonna shoot. As far as life, I've been lied to. Looked down upon. Had fights. Too many to count them all. I round them off.
And the same thing goes for his second mixtape, Ish Happens, which features a diss track featuring proof of D12 and a underground Detroit rapper named Dogmatic. Together they call themselves Promatic, and they drop a diss track aimed at ICP and Esham called We Don't Like You. At the beginning of the track, Proof just flat out says that him and Dogmatic don't like Esham and ICP, as both ICP and Esham were dissing Eminem and D12 at the time.
We don't like it. Esham, we don't like ICP. We don't like ya.
After Proof says this, he then drops a super ill verse about how both Esham and ICP have no skills on the mic.
Let's go back before rapping and mixing and toasting and dubbing. When I was making bread without a loaf in the oven, I snipe at your closest of cousins.
Then Dogmatic comes and finishes the track off with more ill bars.
You better hope that I'm high when I see you. And if I'm high, still ain't walking by when I see you. And if I'm sober, it's all fucking over. You better hope you never see the Matic no more.
Now it's safe to say that this diss track was nothing more than a jab towards ICP and Esham, as there isn't any real disrespect towards them. But one thing that holds true about this track is that it's very obscure and deserves to be brought up in discussions.